Okay, thank you all for coming to three big barriers you face that keep you stressed out and cause communication breakdown, among many other things. So stress is a very debilitating thing when it builds up and pushes into what you're going to be discovering is called the red zone. All right, so today's Sunday. We're at 4:30 Mountain here with the time change. Hopefully everybody's aware of the time change. As you can see, I did a screenshot about 54 minutes ago to put in our first screenshot here a little bit before this show started. So today you're going to discover how to measure your mental and emotional well-being using a visual. So yes, mindfulness can be turned into a visual. Meditation, one of the Sanskrit meanings for meditation is to measure. And I think if you're really way out there and you've taken it to the furthest levels, you know, there is no measure if you're like so locked into the now moment. But that is one of the meanings with meditation, is how to measure. And you're going to see that the inner world can be measured, which is really awesome. Very powerful thing. And you're going to learn how to act based on what you see on the Solving Our Stress chart. Finally, you're going to learn how to handle stress when you suffer from a lack of support systems. So you suffer from a loss. All right, so that's what we've got going for today. Let's go right on into it. All right, so for you coming out today, I really think you are awesome in checking out this video and spending some time. If you're watching the recording, you're awesome. I think you're a dedicated, caring pioneer, and you're also a puzzle solver like me. I really want to solve the problem of what's going on in our inner world, where we're looking at these challenges that we have inside. Okay, then a little bit about me. So I'm a 16-year high school counselor, and I've been doing that for quite a long time. So I'm a veteran in that department, and that's where I've gotten a ton of my experience. I think living life, we all get our experiences, but the experiences that I've gotten have really helped me formulate and create a very powerful system that works not only for parents of high school students and high school students, but I really think, you know, for schools and beyond schools in the world of high school and teenagers. All right, so I've been a 4-year teen team coach. So that's my coaching has really focused in on these teenage challenges and how to help them find their career and dream in life, which I think everybody needs to do. So that's what we're going to talk about within this show today too. And I've been a husband to Donovan Dreyer for 21 years. So there's my kids, there's my wife and I, and a little bit more. I find myself to be a social innovator, somebody who's powerfully looking to make social changes in the same way that we have different versions on our technology and we've got different ways of innovating in other areas. I think we need to do that in the social sphere as well. Excuse me, get something, eyelash or something. All right, so SOS is one of these innovations, and you're going to learn two forms of SOS. The very, very last one I'll save for the end, but solving our stress is the creation that I've come up with to find a way to look into the inner world, into these invisible aspects of ourselves, and bring it to life and make it into a before and after picture when it comes to our mental and emotional well-being. And PAID is another thing that I've come up with to help people land and live the dream in Real World 2.0. And this is also a tool that helps us bring the invisible inner world into a visual. I do this for people doing their career searches, trying to find their dream in life. And it's super powerful. It's something that only takes a matter of minutes to get a better sense of who you are and whether or not your career and the career that you're looking at and the dreams that you've set out to go for really match who you are. And then Heart Smart Habits, Goals, and Dreams is, you know, if we work together as a coaching relationship, that's where you get to see a little bit more into what I've created as a social innovator helping people. All right, so let's get into the origin story. So the Wounded Warrior comes from the fact that I work at Frederick High School, and that's the home of the Warriors. And so for me and all of us Warriors, a couple years ago, we were all wounded and knocked to the mat. And my position was to be a helper within this process and help, you know, in the aftermath of the tragedy of 3 boys who took their lives in a 2-week span. So for me, I did not want that. I didn't want them to depart in vain. And so I wanted to come up with something that our future kids could benefit from, and really everybody. You know, everybody that's suffering from stress needs to find relief and ease in life and get back to happiness and success. Stress can be incredibly debilitating, all the way to that worst of worst levels. I do think that all of the violence that we have in the world stems from people being stuck in the red zone too long. So let's move on and we'll learn about this, the red zone that I've been alluding to. All right, so Solving Our Stress is the name of this program that I've created that allows us to have a structure to mindfulness, a window into our mental and emotional well-being, so we know exactly what the level is and know exactly what to do about it. So that's what's really tough, is sometimes it's just so confusing, and we get into a stressful situation and everything just kind of closes in, and it gets so tough to act. You know, whether it's really every aspect of life. When we really get pushed and our emotions kind of take over, irrationality kicks in, and it gets really tough to function when stress becomes debilitating and lasts for a long time. So one of the promises today is that you're going to be able to see these invisible forces, and you're going to be able to turn them into a chart and a structure. I mean, that is really amazing. And it was really, in the aftermath, I just basically asked, you know, as if I could get an answer from the universe or even the three boys, and said, what was it that we missed? What do we need to be able to do in order to prevent this in the future, so these future kids and our families and other people in the world don't suffer the consequences of these invisible forces just kind of taking over, controlling our life, controlling our decisions. As I said, just narrowing down that focus to a point where maybe there's not a very easy way to make great decisions in life. And the answer came back like that. It was really quick. It said you need to be able to see what boys in particular keep hidden. And I think everybody puts on a mask for the most part, unless they're with a real trusted network of people. So the idea here is you've got to be able to see these invisible forces. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. All right, so this next picture is kind of fun. I did approach Disney and said, you know what, I've created this incredible tool, and I'd really love to see you help me, you know, turn it into something in combination with this movie Inside Out. And they were like, no, we're not going to be able to do that. So I really thought, well, I can have some stick figures put together by Sally, and we could just really narrow this down to same kind of a process, especially for younger kids. So I had some school counselors who work with elementary school students, and they were like, how can you make this SOS process work for the younger kids? So this is just a fun picture that Sally came up with, and it represents the charting and scaling system you're just about to learn more about. So we got Momo, who's got a lot of momentum and motivation in life. We got Slow-Mo, and that momentum and motivation kind of dies down and slows down a bit, and then it just turns into stress mess. So that's the three characters. All right, so with Solving Our Structure, what this is a visual structure for the inner world. Why is this so important? We need to be able to quickly and effectively assess and address any and every type of stress. Another why is to be able to help others see inside and learn what to do. All right, and then we have, excuse me, move this out of my way. All right, you want to be able to see and act. That's basically the process. It's 2 steps. See the stress level and act on it. So we want to create a visual pattern over time and act based on that visual. And then there's just this amazing tangible before and after picture for you and for others that can help you see stress and what happens. So that if you don't do that, the alternative is this stress mess that we don't want to stay stuck in forever. All right, so this is the basic chart, and we have a green zone, we have a yellow zone, and a red zone to the chart. And that's it. Like every level of stress, all this craziness going on, all this confusion, all these things that could lead even to the worst of possible scenarios, just boils down to 3 levels. Green zone, yellow zone, and red zone. And this is just basically like the universal language we use for travel on the outer world. And I just figured, we've got to pull this to the inner world, because I did work with a system that did not work called the Likert scale. And as I started talking to kids about, you know, where do you start to need somebody else's help besides yourself? That was the key question. And that's what really guides me in creating these 3 tiers. or 3 levels, and the kids would come back on a scale of 1 to 10 with all kinds of different numbers. So each person, based on their coping skills, would be able to would need to move on to help beyond themselves at all different kind of numbers, from anywhere from 0.5 all the way up to 7 out of 10. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of those numbers really meant the exact same thing. It was the, like this cutoff line that you see at the yellow level here. So this yellow level cutoff line is basically between the green zone and yellow zone now, because I pulled colors into it, because this is really a powerful universal language that we know. If you don't know how to speak English and you're driving from Colorado to New Orleans, every city that you move from in between here and there, it's going to work on colors. If you know how to speak English, you know how to work off the colors. So no matter where you are in the world, you can understand, if you're driving here in America, we work off these green, yellow, and red lights, and they basically tell us what to do. And that's the idea, is the green zone carries with it a certain source of support or help in this lower right-hand square. And the yellow zone carries with it a to-do item as well. And then finally, the top red zone carries with it a certain type of support. So there are only 3 types of support. So at the green zone, this is like your DIY. This is that cutoff point I was talking to kids about, where is your DIY coping skills cut off? And for everybody on the planet, it cuts off right there at that yellow line. No matter what the numbers are, it's not important, but you need to know that your coping skills keep you in the green. And when it gets beyond your coping skills, that's exactly what dictates the move from the green zone to the yellow zone. In the yellow zone, we don't really get helped if we've got peer pressure and teammates in our life that are driving our stress higher. But the yellow zone help, then, our source of support, would really be the people in our lives, these trusted teammates. When it's beyond our DIY, who do we turn to? A lot of kids say family members and friends. So that's what dictates the yellow zone. And then the big bright line, the key line, is this change from the yellow zone to the red zone. Now, this is where we slip into the need for professional help, where we really need an expert, an authority, a seasoned person that's maybe trained or is trained in this area of mental health, so that our source of support at that last level is really like a therapist, a professional psychologist that can help us in these super troubled times where red flags are going up all over the place and you're stuck in that red zone, unable to get out. That's the time to kick in with professional help. So that's it, 3 levels, and for each level, 1 type of help. So that's what's amazing about this tool, is where we can maybe have this swirl of confusion, conflicting emotions inside, from worry to stressing about work or school, to relationship conflicts, to family conflicts, to even just internal battles. A lot of time, it's just our internal battles where we're not able to be composed and at ease in life and feeling comfortable about who we are. A lot of times we've got ideals and we're hoping for this far off picture of being better or different someday. A lot of times we just don't have a lot of self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence. And that's kind of a blow to the inner world. All right, so that covers the green zone, yellow zone, and red zone. Now, there's a number of different sources of stress for people. There's many different signs of stress for people. But for today, just realize there's more to the left-hand side of the chart. But I really want you to learn from today, there's 3 levels of stress and there's 3 types of help. And that's it. That's what it all boils down to. All right, so step 1, if you can't see these invisible forces, they just play upon you. You go into reactive mode. What I see there's kind of like this rift that happens, and this gap kind of widens. And I'm not talking about the rich and the poor, but I see the gap widen in a relationship. And then there's this polarizing effect between parents and teenagers that I've seen so many times. And it's these invisible forces that keep people stuck in a cycle of the stress, pushing them into reactive mode. So before they think, they're already reacting, and they're clashing and in conflict, and the battle just wages on. Or road rage. Another example is road rage. You got people that are in their cars and the invisible forces just kind of take over, and you could be the most pleasant person in the world, but somebody cuts you off in the car, and all of a sudden these invisible forces kind of take over. All right, so this very first one is you got to be able to see or assess your stress. That is step one. So this is the big barrier, big barrier number one as we're counting down. Let's say this is the third biggest. We're going to count from 3 to 2 to 1. So the third of 3 very big barriers is the inability to see or assess stress properly. And with our chart here, you can see, if you're in the green zone, you're feeling like some healthy stress. And I didn't change it to healthy challenge because I really did want to indicate, like, a good example is my kids at school who have 3 AP classes, 3 very challenging classes. We don't want to push them into like 4 or 5 or 6 because that would not be healthy. But it's good to have 3 instead of 0. So we want to take on some healthy challenge in life. We want to be learning new things and challenging ourselves. So this first level is healthy stress, maybe feeling relaxed and alert. And then you move up into the, the normal range all the way up to the pre-crisis in yellow. It's kind of like within traffic lights. First it starts yellow, and then after it's yellow a long time, it's going to turn red. So that's what we got here, breaking the yellow section up into 2. It's very similar to traffic lights. It's still in the normal range. You could pull it right back into the green. When we get up into pre-crisis, you start to look in the mirror, maybe feel some exhaustion. And then finally, when you get up into that red zone, this is where you're feeling really overwhelmed. You're stuck in high stress. This is maybe where that road rage kicks in and somebody cuts you off, and maybe you just flip up to that red zone really quick. I'm sure many people have felt that in the car. And for me, this is where all the 3 boys were for who knows how long. I think for the most part, there's maybe one last thing that pushes people before they crack. But they've probably been in that red zone a very long time. And if you think about, some of the violence that's happened in the world, or when people want to join a group that promotes violence, they actually, are stuck in that red or just can't get out of that red, and they congregate and gather with people who are stuck in the red as well. And then they're out there doing bad things and, doing some kind of violence in the world, harming people or harming themselves. And it's just like redlining in your car. If you just jam it into first gear and you're just going as long as you can to try and get it going as fast as you can, that engine's going to crack. And the exact same thing is true for people. We've seen it so many times in the news. And, there's numerous stories from Orlando to the boys I've mentioned. And, just many examples of what happens. So it's kind of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas is one little saying. And in the same way, kind of in a really bad way, what happens from the red zone, if you stay in the red zone, is not a good thing. So if you stay stuck in the red zone, then that's where all of these brutal, rough things happen in the world. All right, so how does this work? So if you're coming into my office and we're meeting together, the very first thing I might ask is, and this is not just like, in a normal everyday life, you might not be ready to pull out this chart. And in normal everyday life, I don't necessarily need to pull it out either. But what I look at is a lot of times people are coming to me under duress. They're really stressed out. They're not coming to me just out of the blue to just say, hello, Mr. Dreyer today. They're really coming to see how they're doing. Or they're really facing something where they are pretty stressed out, right up in this red zone, or a lot of times right near that red zone. People are coming to have either a coaching session or a counseling session with me, and they've really got something on their mind that's weighing on them. Their mental and emotional health is at a place where they've got this gut feeling, at least, that something's wrong. So the first thing I do is ask, how are you doing on this chart? Where would you place yourself right now? So this is very similar to that scale I was talking about before, is you're going to fit somewhere in one of these columns. And I push it way to the right for a reason, so you'll see why we've got all these different columns, but I push it way off to the right like that into the second to last column. All right, so this doesn't really give me any context. How did you get here? I want to know how somebody got to this level. And this is where the amazing before and after piece begins to take shape. So the next thing I ask is, how were you yesterday, or how were you last week? And we can see now we've got already a little bit of a picture taking shape here. We can see in a better spot than I am right now. And I ask, well, how were you before that? And now we can see in this case, this was a worse place. The stress was much higher a day or a week or a month before that. The time is undefined. So that you can see time at the bottom there doesn't have a definition to it. So each of these columns could represent whatever time you assign to it. So the very next thing I'm going to ask is, well, how were you doing before that? And now we really start to see a pattern has taken shape in our invisible inner world. So this is a look at a real student that I worked with. And, and basically, as you can see, this was a student in a good position, way down there in the healthy stress. And I think, getting caught lying or getting caught ditching class or getting caught drinking alcohol, any one of these things is going to suddenly push, at least for the students who really, really care. If they get busted, they're really going to get pushed into that, crisis zone pretty quick. And then if they come back down, then that's a lot like maybe our car zooming up there and changing gears and coming back. And that's kind of what happened initially. But what do you think is the problem now? What do you see on the right-hand side? As we look to the future, what I'm really concerned about is is this pattern maybe go up higher and past that higher point earlier, or get stuck in the red, because we're right on the verge of going right back into that red level. So this is seeing the stress. This is literally bringing a structure to mindfulness, or in that one Sanskrit definition of meditation, this is the measure. This is literally what somebody looks like on the inside. This is a real example from a student. And this is the picture and your ability now to see stress. All right. So now that you've got your chart going, and maybe you can still keep working on your chart if you want to put the other plots in there, the next thing is to see the effects of stress. So first, we've seen the stress pattern, and now we're going to see the effects of stress. And this came, in the wake of the tragedies in our community. One of the teachers came into my office, and she said, I'm really feeling like I need to be here for the kids. They're leaning on me. They trust me. I just don't feel like I, can take any time for myself. And I had her plot herself on the board, and did the pattern. And so we're looking at a place right now where she had an uptrend, like stress was getting higher and higher and higher. So I asked her a follow-up question. I said, in light of the fact that you're not just here for yourself like students are, and there's one tax on your energy, one thing affecting your energy, you really have to be here for kids. And you're looking at your energy levels, really vital. Like if you're here to give, you have to have something to give, just like a car has to have fuel in the tank. So I asked her, like, if we put a gas tank up here or an energy tank up here on the board, where would your energy be? And initially she's like, well, it'll be about this, maybe up near a quarter tank. And it's like, I don't know, maybe an eighth of a tank. And then she just like, I need to be honest with you. It's empty. So I immediately said, well, where would a car go on E, even if it was like the fastest high performance sports car in the world? And she's like, nowhere. She just immediately said, you know what? I need to focus on my self-care. I'm just going to get a sub and take the rest of the day off. It was like 10:20 in the afternoon or 10:20 in the morning. And right then and there, she just decided it's time to get up and take the rest of the day off and get a sub. And that was super powerful. And it was just like, this is amazing to see that the effects of stress had prompted, and we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but it prompted her to figure out exactly what to do to address her stress level, to turn that momentum around. All right, so in healthy stress, again, you got the same kind of things. This lady's got her like emojis going on here as she moves up the chart into crisis. You can see that high stress level just puts you right down to E. And you might keep trying to slog along in life and plug along, but that's what sets people up for being overwhelmed, burned out. We talk about burnout, just like you'd burn up an engine. We talk about people cracking and not seeing the red flags. So a lot of our languaging already works with the system I've created. So I just want it to be like this easy, smooth transition from the outer world to the inner world, so we can kind of function and do the things that we need to do for our inner care and safety, just like we do on the roads. We can't have just all the lights be sideways and purple and brown in some towns and white and bright with blue in another town. And they have to be green, yellow, and red, so that everybody knows how to travel, knows how to keep safe with each other. And I think it's the same way for the inner world. We really can measure where we're at and keep safe. All right, so once we've been able to see, which was step one, step two is to act. So it's a super easy see and act system. So if we know where we're at on our stress level and we can see it, then these invisible forces don't force us to act in a reactionary way, in ways that build up guilt and resentment and shame as well, and excessive worry. We don't really want our actions to just make matters worse. And a lot of times, if we have no idea that our stress is kind of taking over and dominating, and we just don't even know where we stand and can't see that level, then our actions are all wrong and just create more of a problem. All right, so the action we see here for each level is green is self-care. The yellow is your trusted network of support, which is usually family and friends for people. And finally, the red up there is therapist. I don't even put coach up there. I've had experience both coaching and counseling, but I wouldn't put a coach up at the tip top, not coaching alone. So when you're really stuck in the red zone, it's important to know that the therapist or counselor or psychologist could count for all of the below. So you can have the action up there at the top be, getting that professional help when you're stuck in the red. But the therapist, counselor, and then now the coach can kick in at that yellow level as well and help you build out your network of support. And then the coach or counselor can also kick in at that green level and help you with your coping skills. What are those proactive things you're going to do in life? So if you're doing your self-care, self-worth and self-confidence and self-esteem, these are such nebulous things too, but I don't think they are anymore. With this system I've devised, when you push that, like the kid with the 3 AP classes, if they push it up there to 3 AP classes, then succeeding with that is going to be the source of the self-esteem, confidence, and self-worth. You're going to be able to push through and meet those challenges. So that's where, now it's not just lots of pats on the back and a lot of encouragement. And, a lot of people joke that everybody getting a trophy and soccer is not a good thing. I think in real world 2.0, this actually might not be a bad thing. So if we get away from this super competitive world, that might not be a bad thing. But I'm kind of diverging here a little bit. But the self-care is really that source. If you do it right and you've got good coping skills and you keep building them by putting in healthy challenges in life, now you actually have control over self-confidence, self-esteem, like leading your life and living your life in a way that you feel good about and confident about. And we get up into that yellow zone. We got our family and friends in there, and they're there to help us out and help us turn the trend around if it starts to rise past the level of our coping skills. And so they can be the people that are, in action with us. We don't have to do it alone in life. And when we think about the actions that we need to take based on our stress levels, sometimes it's just leaning on somebody. And if you're a good friend, they can lean back on you and kind of back and forth. And, as you think about that process too, imagine like if you were doing that back and forth, that nice interplay, then you've got a nice setup with family and friends, and you've got a nice inner relationship set up. And now if that was all one-sided, now that somebody's really depending on you big time, that might be an indicator that they're up there in the red, right? That is not the right interplay. You want to go back and forth helping each other out. All right, so that's the middle section. And then finally, the action that you're going to need to take if you're stuck in the red zone is get some professional help. I had to set an example for this myself, and I had to take control and lead my life myself, because after helping so many others after the tragedies in our society, in our community, it was my time to take advantage of the 6 sessions that the district put out there for people. So it was so vital for me, I think, to kind of cross over and then be willing to talk about that now, to just look, these kind of impacts on our inner world are just like the impacts on our outer world. We have so many people trying to tough it out and be, the top dog in life, and that there's something weak about getting mental health help. So I really think, you have to be courageous to be vulnerable, to share that, I was willing to do that is a tough thing. I think it's a powerful thing. So it's not super tough for me, because I just see this link so naturally to treating mental wellness, just the same mental and emotional well-being, in the exact same way we treat our physical well-being. So for me, when it was push to help others, I put myself up in that direction of higher and higher and higher stress and risking burnout. So it was time for me to do my own processing after helping so many other people process through the loss and the shock and the devastation. All right, coming back to our example now. This is where we stood before any action. And in this case, the student was really smart. This was right on the verge of red zone, had already been in the red zone. So it was really intelligent. This is like some great emotional intelligence for a student to come in and seek out that help before, the next step, if it goes higher and stays on this trend, is into the red zone. And the trend is definitely up from the last two X's. So this is just something I pulled from the stock market, that if you are seeing momentum go in a certain direction, it's just going to stay there unless something's done to arrest that motion. That's from physics as well. So this student was really wise, came in to get the right type of help. And in this case, the right type of help being right up there in that pre-crisis to crisis range is to seek out a professional, some seasoned, experienced person that's trained and knows how to deal with crisis. All right, so then to address the stress, what does your pattern look like now? So let's go back to your example. And what does your pattern look like? What type of help is needed for you? Are you in the green and it's just your coping skills are going to kick in? Is it the yellow and you're, just looking at a situation where you might be able to rely on a trusted family or friend? Or are you up there in the red level? If you're in the red zone right now, for anybody watching, listening to the recording in the future, if you're in the red right now, that's the time to reach out for the help. If you know somebody else who's in the red, we just don't seem to know what to do when we're in the red and somebody else is in the red. Like the girlfriend of the guy, who did the damage in Orlando at the nightclub. She didn't know what a red zone was. She didn't know what a red flag was. She didn't know what type of help he needed. And I guess maybe we can pick on her, point fingers and find fault with it. But the bottom line is we need to get people ridiculously familiar with what to do when people are showing red flags. And we're going to have to put more resources on it. We're going to have to put more help on the job. And if we have a lot of people that are needing these mental health and emotional health needs met, and they're in the red, we can't just ignore that. We can't just pretend like we don't know what to do anymore, because now there actually is a system where we can totally identify not only exactly what these red flags mean, but exactly what to do. So if you're in that level, it might be time to call 911. You might reach out for like one of there's 24-hour hotlines. And finally, if you need to see a therapist, it might be time to get some therapy, a professional to help you pull that stress level back down out of the red. All right, so for now, we're going to hold off on sharing out examples. Actually, if you want to put a little bit of a feedback in the column, you can. So there is a question and answer section, so I will look at that right there. So I don't see any open questions in there, but if you want to talk about the pattern that you have, it's even more powerful to see them. So I do have some examples myself that we'll be able to show. So that's one of the tricky things about sharing out the examples, is this is a visual process. So we really want to see the results. So now this is the super duper powerful thing for mental health. I think for a mental health breakthrough, for me, the before and after is just ridiculously powerful. It's a before and after that not only do I understand, but even students, I think, of any level can understand this charting process. They do charts in math, they do graphs in math, they do all kinds of things that they start to see these visual patterns. So in this case, I worked with this student. He came for the help from somebody who's trained and experienced. And the reassessment is super powerful, because as we go into the final step of the picture, that was the final plot. And if you're wondering why it's exactly right in the middle of the exact same column, is it's the same day. So this is super cool. This student had a visual difference, a before and after. So the before was that uptrending stress, right on the verge of hitting into the red zone. And the after is this visual assessment. Like both he and I could tell he's in a better spot, better than the day before even. So really got to a much, much better place, being able to vent, be validated, come up with a strategy for how to turn things around, and go out that door with a new habit to build into place to avoid getting back up into the red. So the processing and coming up with a plan and knowing what to do going out the door was huge for this student. And for me as a person working with other people, to have a before and after with invisible stuff. Are you kidding me? This is amazing. This is just like they show before and afters in so many other things where you can see like the house get redone on one of the HGTV shows. So this is the exact same thing, a before and after for assessing invisible forces. So see, act, and then finally you're going to take a look again, and look what we got here. We've got a student in a better spot. Both of us are totally easily, aware of it because it's a visual world. This is a visual process. Student goes out the door in a better place, and both of us know it. No complex theory. We're not talking about person-centered theory or reality theory or brief theory. There's no theory involved. Just a simple, the theory is we can plot it, create a picture, and then show the after effect and see a final picture. So now my thought is we can be proactive with this. We can look to the future and know how to decompress the stress when it rises and it's just starting to develop into a little of a negative pattern. So the next action is how to be proactive. So that's what it means to decompress stress. Let's not let it get into the red zone and stay stuck in the red zone so long that people are out there harming themselves or harming others in so many different ways. So with this one, we're looking at, as you move up this step, it's this powerful process of figuring out how to decompress stress proactively. And I really just want you to focus in on here with the expert help in the middle. So the new little label is expert help in the middle. So the therapist could be the expert help, or a coach like myself. This is where we can kick in and help out in the yellow zone and in the green zone, building up those ways to proactively turn trends around and build up those coping skills so that people are able to decompress their stress way quicker, very proactively and intentionally. And that can take some training, that can take some help. We don't have to do it alone out there in the world. I just want people to know that we have this powerful ability to reach out for help, and that this is really one of the big keys is finding a system of support. So that's that final SOS. We have solving our stress, but the final SOS is developing a system of supports. You rely on somebody who can help you build out those skills, build out your network of support. All right, so running down there's a checklist here. This is available to everybody. I shared this with school counselors, and it's super powerful. This comes from some piloting experience. And in flying airplanes, it didn't matter. No matter how many times you've flown, there's no way that you're not going to pull out that checklist and take a look at it. So this can be turned into like a nice skinny placard that you just pull up. I pull it up off my desk, and I encourage other people to just laminate it, have it right there ready to go, to figure out if you even need to do the SOS process. If you're not under duress, it's not vital. If your stress isn't rising, there's nothing to decompress. But if you are, then we just move on right to that next step of assess. So we want to see and act, take a look again, and then figure out the follow-up. Follow-up is definitely needed if that stress does not go down. So one of my case studies is, so this is just a recent picture, somebody up near the red, and then you can see kind of like sketched out just a little bit lower. And this is probably a student that I want to follow up with a lot sooner because the stress didn't come down significantly and it went to a pretty high level. All right, so this one's kind of interesting. And as you can see, sometimes I just have my whiteboard. I draw a green, yellow, and red section. And I had an interesting dynamic with, this was an interesting story where you had a parent and a teenager that were always fighting, clashing, arguing, yelling. And the parent just said, you know what, I'm right up near the red zone. And I said, well, we gotta get that under wraps. We gotta figure out how to address your stress so that you can pull that down. So the down arrow represents the P, parent, needs to pull that stress down. But the student hadn't plotted anything on the board when we were talking. And I asked the parent, well, where do you think your son or daughter, where do you think your son or daughter is at this point right now? And she's like, oh, well, we're fighting, clashing, yelling, screaming. It has to be in the red. Totally wrong. And this, I've asked other students the same thing. This is the button pushing thing, people. This is where the student is not in the red. They don't mind arguing, yelling, screaming, shouting, and being in conflict. They're just there to push the button and say, you know, and I asked the student, well, how's that affected? Like, how are you okay with that? The student was just like, well, I'm not washing the dishes, you know, for those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm putting off the thing that I don't want to be controlled into doing, and I get to control the show. So student pushes the parent stress up. The parent doesn't have the ability to pull it down. Parent thinks they're both just struggling away, and that just wasn't the case. So that's one example. And then here's another example of a student, you know, kind of disregard the pie charts for the moment on this one. I just took a screenshot. But in this case, you can see the student came to me in the middle, so I put myself in the middle, and then came to me again, and the stress was still higher, and finally, you know, came a third time, and the stress went higher. So pretty, you know, stressed out, but then it kept going higher and higher. And this was really interesting because it finally showed me that we can't automatically assume if we're working somebody in the mental health realm and we're meeting with them that we don't need a before and after. We don't need any kind of system to measure, you know, this inner world or see the invisible inner world, because we can just assume our theories work. It works every time when they come in our office. This is not the case. This has happened a couple different times now, where you know, a boy went higher with the stress and then higher again upon meeting with me. So the big clincher to kind of wrap this little short story up is that the center meeting right in here, the second star there, was a meeting with a parent. So it seemed like the parent was super well, you know, put at ease from that meeting, got to vent, got to be validated, and maybe the student was feeling a little bit ganged up upon with two adults in the room, and it wasn't such a good dynamic anymore. I did notice in both of the cases where the stress went higher that something seemed a little different. They didn't seem like they were themselves. So in this case, the stress went higher, and then I just had to know, and I didn't bring out the chart the first couple of times. But the third time, I was like, wow, we really need to turn this around, because I need to know what's going on, because you're like coming here so frequently. I didn't even think there was a need to check in on these two students. But when they came back again, I had to pull it out, because this was just seemed like too many frequent meetings for such a short period of time. And in this case, the stress did go down, and they simply needed a concrete plan. In both cases, it wasn't about venting and validating. It wasn't about processing. It wasn't about working on the dynamics with their parent as much as it was, dude, give me a concrete plan. I need to have something going out the door where I understand what I need to do to make my situation better. And nothing's going to help other than, you know, what are these two assignments I need to focus in on first? Or what are these two classes I need to prioritize first? So same thing for everybody in life. Sometimes we just don't know where to start, how to prioritize, and it can really help to go to somebody to get that, you know, get to the core of the matter, figure out what the top priority is, and just get locked in on doing that next step. And sometimes it's actually building a habit. So that's one of my big strengths, is helping people get right to the core of their own personal things, and then lock in with, there's a next step or a new habit to be building into place to you know, repair that situation and get on a better trajectory with that stress and bring that down in the green zone again. All right, so this is kind of a picture of that previous chart. This is an example where it can go higher and higher, and we want that visual difference. Okay, so now we're moving into seeing hidden stress. So I did ask a student, you know, what would you do? And I asked myself, and I was, you know, asking many different people, like, what can we do when there are no outward signs of stress? And this one's intense, because it's like, well, what if SOS totally breaks down? We're back to this, you know, square one, with there being no mindfulness structure, no measure when it comes to this meditative approach to life and awareness and self-awareness. What if there's just absolutely no signs of stress? And no matter what's going on, you know, this person's presenting as happy. No matter what's going on, this person's super helpful. There's no signs of any cracking. There's no signs of any burnout. And there's just nothing there. And I was just mystified, because that's what I needed to do on a couple different occasions. Like there's people that have departed the world without ever showing any sign that something was wrong. And so when people crack out of the blue and you know, this SOS process is not going to work because there's a total shock, I needed to know what to do. And so thinking about it, journaling about it, reflecting on it, asking other, adults, and knowing that this was our big problem in life, I asked the student what to do, and there was a ninth grader, freshman student, who came up with the brilliance. So we have the flipped classroom of we can do things at home and on the computer, and then in the classroom, but there's also the flipped classroom of we can get wisdom from our kids. So it's not just the elders who have the wisdom, but when we step up to ask somebody who we might not expect to have the answers to some seriously difficult questions, we might find the answers. So I asked the student, what would you do? And he's like, oh, well, I would just look closer at the faces. And I was like, well, as you can see, I just cut and pasted them. And that's a lot of what people do with their masks in life. They've just cut and pasted this happy face and everything's good and nothing's wrong and you can't really tell what's going on. And so he said, well, okay, I know what I would do. I just ask an extra question of what we normally do. And I said, okay, tell me what this extra question is. And he's like, well, normally we pass each other in the hallway and we're just like, what's up? And we're off to class. And I would just ask a second question. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Normally you don't have time and you're just passing each other and you don't really need to know what's up and you don't really mean, how are you doing in those situations? But give me the answer. Like, what's this thing that you've got? I see you got something in up your sleeve here. What is the question? So he basically decided to guess that there could be some stress. He said, it's just not normal. If one of my teenage friends is just happy all the time, so every once in a while, I think we should guess. And I was like, sweet, what do you mean guess? How do we answer this question or ask this question? He said, well, if we ask normally, how are you doing? If we just emphasize the really and ask, how are you really doing after the first time we ask, then that could be code for, hey, you know what? I got some time for you. I've got 20 minutes available. Let's sit down together and talk it out. And so that was just so amazing that this kid came up with this brilliance on being able to guess that something could be there when there's absolutely no signs whatsoever, maybe no awareness of what triggers a student into some stress. So guess stress is simply set up with this extra question that can be code. You can set this up with people that are close with you and just say, you know what, let's come up with this idea of asking each other how we're really doing when we've got time and we really want to go there and get deep and be powerfully there and supportive and being in a network of support as trusted teammates in life. So that's what this student came up with. All right. Obviously, as part of the thing with stress, communication breaks down sometimes, and that's a big problem. So it's stress that can cause these communication breakdowns. When we're looking at that student and parent, they're not necessarily both there, but the communication breaks down for sure when two people are in the red zone. You can see from these two that they're both in the red zone at the moment. They're, or at least at that pre-crisis level where there's just no communication happening and you can wonder what to do. So stress causes that, but even a bigger one is chronic stress. We've been talking about this red zone and how people crack in the red zone. And what that looks like is this pattern here. You're stuck here. You're in a cycle of stress. You cannot get out of that cycle. It's a vicious cycle. And I think all conflict and harm in the world happens from the red zone. People stuck in the red zone, partnering, joining with others stuck in the red zone. And all they can do is all manner of evil and harm in the world when people are stuck in a red zone rut. So this causes something way more serious in communication breakdown. But I wanted to move into this level of showing what that would look like if people are there. My first record was 1 month. The next record was 3 months. And then it was 6 months. And then it was a year. And finally, the current record is like 10 years where somebody's kind of hanging out back and forth between red zone and yellow zone. And that, clearly is somebody who needs that extra layer of professional help, even beyond what a coach or, a counselor in the schools can handle. So it's just so powerful to know what it means to have these red flags, what it means to be stuck in the red zone for a long time. When people start to post things that show that they're in the red zone, they're just screaming out there, just saying, hi, I'm in the red zone. Please get me help. I don't know how to get help. I don't know where to ask for that help, but please get me that help because I'm stuck in the red and I need to go green. All right, going green is a lot like Michael Phelps or Simone Biles. I think when we see people super, super successful in the Olympics, we see what's humanly possible. these people develop such incredible routines, and they're just locked in on these routines. And with Phelps, he got out of his routine. He went right up into that pre-crisis or red zone. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have a new routine built. He just retired this first time around, and then he just lost it. Now he got it right back and got it going again. He found his green routine again. So when you intentionally keep it here, you can see it pushing up into that yellow. Maybe Simone Biles and people like Phelps push it up into that yellow a little bit so that they have the greatest challenges in the world and build up the greatest self-esteem, confidence, and abilities in the world. So intentionally keeping it here, we see medals for Phelps and medal for Simone Biles. We see the good grades happen, the great decision making, people having a service mindset, having compassion, having a sense of connectedness. So we want people to do the greening of the inner world. So just like we got the traffic system set up with green, yellow, and red, and we have environmentalists who go green and want to make the world green, same thing on the inside. We want green routines to bring about the greening of the inner world. So this is what it would look like to intentionally keep it there. So our Olympians, they get gold medals, and that's nice and everything. But what they show us within our human capacity is they show us what's possible for everyone. Everyone that builds up these powerful green routines and have an incredible passion in the world, maybe they're going for their dreams in life, and it may or may not be for gold medals, but just passionately getting after your dreams and building that healthy habit, those healthy habits in life that allow you to get there, is what this green routine is. All right, the SOS plan is to solve our stress, but it's also, now we're getting into the systems of support. So what do you want to be when you grow up is what we always ask kids, but I want everybody to find their voice, whether it's, going after gold medals in swimming, going after gold medals in gymnastics. What is it that you want to be, championship caliber in life with? What's your voice? What do you want to find to do in life? Are you doing it now? I know I'm really a lot closer. There were times in my life when I did other things and I found a way to really, love what I was doing in the moment. But man, my passion is to help people find their voice now. So finding your voice and being your system of support, that's what I do for a living. That's what I do as a coach. I'm really locked in on helping people find their destination dream, what they're passionate about in life. And, do you have direction? Are you all over the map yourself and not finding your way? It's a lot like, here's what I show, kids on a chart as you go from a place like this where you don't know if you're supposed to be a mechanic, a teacher, a lawyer, something in business. Is there something else I don't know about that's supposed to point toward the target? As you can see, other is the only thing pointing toward the target. We want people to get after their dreams in life. We want them to go to this. And the way you do that is you determine destination dream first, and then you go for it. You launch toward it. You have to discover what it is to launch toward it. You have to figure out where your destination is before you hop on a plane. Your itinerary has where you're at and where you're going. And then you come on back in some cases, or maybe it's a one-way trip. We want a one-way trip to destination dream, right? So my job is to discover dreams, help you discover your dreams, figure out what destination dream is, and then let's get you going toward it. And you do not have to do it alone. So the SOS of the system of support is for people who are just tired of being in a bad mood, that their daily life is affected. So, the barrier in this path, if we don't have paths going zigzagging all over the place, what I've discovered is the barrier is simply stress. It can crush our moods. It can crush our self-talk. We're saying negative things to ourselves about ourselves. It really messes up our daily interactions with the people closest to us. It affects us in all walks of life. Having Mondays be miserable for people. And even beyond that, it can really get into an absolute stress mess. So we want people to avoid the stress mess. And with a system of support, you push through, you break through those stress barriers, and you're able to see it. You're able to take action, and you're able to take action with support. So I want people to be able to discover their dreams in life. I want to support them in getting there. That's basically what I'm on this planet to do, and finally help people reach their destination. I want people to plow through and break through those real tough things that just cause that rift in the relationships, a big resentment gap that gets created. I mean, that's not a dream for any parent and child. So when we look at parents and teenagers getting closer together, building that bond, you've got to find ways to handle stress better. When you want to help go beyond that to having a nice tight bond that then supports a student or yourself even, not everybody's living the dream. So in the adult world, I want people to be able to go off, live their dreams, and to do so with that support, the much better system. All right, so it's coming up on election time, and if I were campaigning, man, I would be running on presence and contagious ease. And I don't mean giving people lots of presents with the PRESENTS. I'm looking at PRESENCE and a CE for contagious ease as well. So when you bring your presence to your life and you have this awareness about your stress and you know what to do about it, and you're going after your dream, to me, I want everybody, more and more and more people getting after their dream. And if you get a 2-for-1 sale here with living your dream, the cool 2-for-1 is you're also making your best contribution in the world. So this is what I mean by contagious ease. As people out there living their dream have a great impact on Monday morning. They're not miserable and they're not whining about it. They're not looking for hump day. They're not waiting for TGIF. They're really locked in and excited about their life. They're present to their reality. They love their life right now because they're passionate about what they're doing. They're living their dream, and bam, this is just contagious and infectious and rubs off on everybody. And it's the best way of contributing in the world is to be doing what you were born to do. And that could be anything under the sun. It really doesn't matter. But it's really that powerful infectiousness that spills over to everybody else because you're happy about what you're doing and you've found your place in life. You're not doing what somebody forced you to do or told you to do. You're not settling. I think settling, there's a goofy commercial about settling in cable or something like that, but settling in life is one of these things that prevents us from making our best contribution. It's one of those things that makes our life a little bit miserable when we look back in retrospect. We want to get after it, take those chances to live our dreams, and make our best contribution to the world. And what blocks your path? Your stress mess. So we got to plow through that stress mess. You got to be able to see it. You got to be able to act on it. You got to be able to take a look again and know that you've actually worked it out. You've broken through your stress. All right, and to do that, what I offer is a system of support plan. So what I offer here at the end of this talk here is I want you to get in touch with me so that we can figure out a way to help you get to destination dream. Let's build your itinerary, and you can do it with a system of support. I know what it's like to make it to the dream in life. I'm there. I'm really living it. And for me, the dream is to help other people find their dream. So this is really what I was born to do. It's in my wheelhouse. And if you're really excited to find out what you were meant to do in life and powerfully want to get after it, then that's what coaching's for, at least my type of coaching. So I provide a system of support for people who are getting after destination dream and are just stuck in a stress mess. So the easiest ways to connect with me are either through email, or you can call me up here with the number on the screen. And I also have a Schedule Once account. So you can find me through Schedule Once at http://meetme.so/Donovan. All right, and then one other thing I offer to parents out there is the ability to join the teen team. I have something called the School Counselor Squad. So I got a number of different school counselors who are working on solving stress in life with the chart I've created. But I also want to offer this supportive opportunity through the emails that I send out. And the videos that I post, I also put in the emails. And when I offer webinars, a lot of them are really focused in on helping parents of teenagers. So if you are a parent of a teenager, you can go ahead and text Teen Team to 33444. And let's talk about some subjects that allow you to create a healthy home life and help you become a remodeled role model or a mentor or a coach or a counselor who's really positive in the life of a teenager. And then the other part of a teenage team is to help them build out their positive peers. So the teen team is what I've put out there. And then we also need to locally build out our team as well. All right, so my social, We got YouTube and Get Ready Coaching Facebook page. You can friend me on Facebook. I'm totally wide open to people friending me on Facebook. You can definitely link up with me through LinkedIn. Twitter is one that I don't, I mean, all of my Facebook posts kind of on the Get Ready Coaching Facebook page go out to Twitter, but I really look at YouTube. You know, definitely would love for you to subscribe to YouTube to get all the things that I put out that will benefit you in living your dream, working through stress. And the Facebook page, same thing. I put a lot of posts in the Facebook page that might all not go out to the email. So it gives you a lot of opportunities through there. And then my website is getreadycoaching.com. And you can find my blog posts there and also get into my email list that way, in addition to the team route. All right, again, the easiest ways for us to connect are through email. You can give me a call to set up an appointment so you can have a system of support in your life. I've got a really powerful way to get you pushing through the stress mess that's in the way of where you are right now in your dreams. So we do it together, and you definitely have an opportunity to set up for success. Okay, so that's the gist of this whole presentation here. That was called 3 Big Barriers You Face That Keep You Stressed Out and Cause Communication Breakdown. Also causes you to get in the way of your own self when it comes to reaching your dreams. And if you are really struggling and stuck in your own way, then sometimes it's helpful to reach out to somebody who can give you a supportive, helping hand. And man, knowing just how powerful it is to be in the right zone. I mean, I've been the jack of all trades throughout my life. I've even mastered a couple. But when it comes down to it, it's even challenging to go in 2 different directions. And I'm really in the zone now with helping people figure out how they can push through their own stress mess in life, you know, get better in the daily moods and get after those long-term dreams with a lot of passion and excitement and support. So I hope you really enjoyed 3 big barriers that you face that keep you stressed out and cause communication breakdown. And now you know how to get through those barriers. And I'm here for you anytime. So best of luck out there and take care. Have a great night. Great day if you're watching the recording and it's the daytime. All right, Donovan Dreyer with Get Ready Coaching and SOS.